Welcome to the Pillar to Post podcast, the official preview and recap show of 3Dub Wrestling. I am your host, Dewey Danielson, and today we will be talking about the end of Season 9, the Big Event 9, Global Impact, and what to look forward to for Season 10. And oh yeah, a special interview with the new president of 3Dub Wrestling, James Black. That's right, guys. Let's dive right into it. That is right, guys. Welcome to the first episode in Season 10 of the Pillar to Post podcast. Man, this is going to be fun. I am extremely excited about doing this. It is somewhat new territory for Dewey, so you're going to have to give me some time to kind of get my footing here in the podcast world. I've done a little research and whatnot, but it'll take me a minute to implement some things. This is only my second podcast I've ever done. In fact, we did one episode of Pillar to Post podcast, so this isn't the first ever, but if you would go back a couple seasons ago, we had our very first episode, I guess you could say. We had guest Remy Resnor on at the time. We had a lot of fun on that show, and we did a lot of things. We also had CFT on that show. But again, that was something that didn't really get the footing back then, but now we're going to give it a shot again here in Season 10. And we're going to be coming at you guys every other Saturday morning, the opposite weekend of the Blaze show when it appears. If you don't know, Blaze is now going to be released on Sunday nights, ladies and gentlemen. We're no longer going to be going through the weekday. Going to be releasing on the weekends. And with that said, the next Saturday after every Blaze show, we will do the Saturday morning Pillar to Post podcast. And of course, I am the voice of 3Dub Wrestling, Dewey Danielson. I'll be bringing you all of the preview, recap, news, updates, everything that is 3Dub right here on this podcast. And we will be having special segments that'll become reoccurring. We'll, of course, have special guests and interviews that will be coming on into the show, just like on this one today. We have a very special interview with one James Black, the new president of 3Dub Wrestling. So I know you guys are all anticipating what James has to say, especially about what we could be looking forward to in Season 10. We'll get to that a little bit later at the end of the show, guys. So be sure to tune in, stay tuned, and check out what James Black has to say at the end of this show. Now, before we get started, of course, I want you to hit that subscription button. You can find it on the home page, of course, of 3Dub Wrestling YouTube network. Hit subscribe, notifications. Check them all so you can get all of the videos, podcasts, and special features we drop with the premier Efed entertainment, guys. And if you're watching on your cell phones, you're watching in landscape form, which is fat version, sideways, if you will. The bottom right-hand corner, you will see the YouTube logo. You can click there as well to subscribe. We are not just here on YouTube, though, guys. A lot of you already know, but if you don't, be sure to check us out on social media. Our main social media page would be Facebook. And of course, we have a Facebook fan page, and we've also got a Facebook group page that anybody can be a part of. Right now, we have 400 plus members a part of that. It's free to join. Just answer a couple of questions, and you can get all of the immediate information. That is where we post the majority of our information. You will hear it here on the podcast as well as other YouTube or other social media outlets, but that is the main source right there on Facebook. Whether you're following the Facebook 3Dub fan page or you're a part of the group, you're going to get all of that information first and foremost. Also, something else cool about the 3Dub Wrestling Facebook group page is that is where all of the talents promote their promos. Now, a lot of these promos go unseen to a lot of you viewers. We do our best to share them on social media, and of course, we do the promo of the week, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But a lot of the promos go unseen, and it's crucial, we think, especially now going forward, that as many eyes see these promos as possible, because that is where you're going to find out the first-hand perspective of the talents and the stories that they're being told with, and the rivalries or partnerships even that they have in the locker room. So if you want to join the Facebook group, of course, like I said, it is free to join. That is where a lot of information and promos are put. Now, of course, we also still have the Instagram page where we drop a lot of information. A lot of reels and shorts. A lot of our stories get posted there. We also have, for the little bit younger audience, I know it's for the young cats these days, the TikTok platform shows a lot of recap of the previous shows. Now, guys, you can find the links to all of those social media accounts in the description of this show, as well as any other show, 3Dub Wrestling. So be sure to go there and follow or subscribe 3Dub on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Now, we also are on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. But we don't post high frequency there. We're not really, as a matter of fact, we might not keep the Twitter page. I don't know, but we are on Twitter as well if you want to find us there. Now, let's move on to talk about some of the returning shows and segments for 3Dub Wrestling. Of course, we've got the brand that won the brand war of Season 9 at the Big Event 9. We'll touch base on that more here in just a bit. Blaze will be returning, and I already mentioned Sunday nights will be the new night for the Blaze show, and it will be still on a bi-weekly schedule. And our first episode returning in Season 10 is going to be next Sunday, Father's Day, on June 15th, 7 p.m. Be there or be square. Of course, we're not doing Takedown. That has rest its soul. We will talk about that here in just a second. Promo of the week. I talked about this also already. A lot of the promos being dropped on the Facebook group page, but if you want to keep up with some of the better promos, be sure to check out Promo of the Week. A new night for Promo of the Week will be dropping on Friday afternoons. And that will be featuring, I may have said the best, but it's not necessarily the best promo every week. We think getting these stories out, being a story-based Fed, getting these stories out and really telling the stories across the promos is very important. So if there's a promo out there that really deep dives into the storytelling, does a really good job of storytelling on top of good production and features and all of that, you can catch those kind of promos, a promo of the week every Friday night. Friday afternoon. 3Dub Throwback will be making its way back to the channel, where we highlight historic recaps of matches and moments every other week. Throwback Thursday. I think we're coming back with episode number 30. Great way to check out the history of 3Dub Wrestling. If you're a new viewer to the channel, a lot of content has gone through, over 1,000 videos. So be sure to check out the 3Dub throwback and give you a little taste of where 3Dub has come from. Something that was new last season, season 9. In season 10, we will be bringing back the 3Dub theme reveals. Now, this does not just limit to the talent theme reveals, although that is the majority. We'll also be seeing premium live event theme reveals during this, as well as other things like the promo of the week theme, the throwback theme, any other theme song related to 3Dub Wrestling. We'll be releasing those every single Wednesday. And alongside of that will be a top 5 theme posting every single Wednesday, showing which themes have the top 5 view counts on the 3Dub page. So that means if you really like a theme, be sure to share it and show as many people as you can if you want it to reach that top 5 spot. And hopefully we get a nice little back and forth battle with some things with that 3Dub theme reveals every Wednesday. Gonna have some new content coming to 3Dub. Some of it we've kind of done before. And a couple things we've never done before. Now, first, I will say the Pillow to Post podcast. Again, it's not our first episode, but it is a newer thing that we're going to be hopefully doing frequently here throughout season 10. So very excited. If you don't happen to catch a show, of course it's in the archives, so you can go watch it at any time. But if you're not sure maybe what's going on with some of the stories or some of the characters, we'll be sure to clear that up right here on the Pillow to Post podcast. And as I mentioned, special guests, special features, segments, all will be coming. The next thing I want to talk about is going to be very big, okay? We've talked about this behind the scenes for a few seasons now, a couple of years. And I think it's something that's going to really draw that line in the Efed world. Now, I'm not saying we're the first and only to do this. Plenty of Efeds have done similar things and have done them very well. But as far as our corner of the Efed world goes, and as far as our company, 3Dub, this will be a first time. And we're really hoping it goes well, and we really hope that everybody involved can provide their best performance during these. So we want to start introducing documentaries. Documentaries, that sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But it also sounds fun. It sounds intriguing. And me as a producer here in 3Dub Wrestling, I love the challenge of being able to create something entertaining that isn't inside the squared circle. Something that branches the company out to be more than just a wrestling show, to be a place that entertainment value can be found and provided to wrestling fans all across the world in different avenues of entertainment, not just wrestling or promos or throwbacks or theme songs, documentaries recapping some of the greatest achievements of 3Dub. And it's going to be a challenge. It definitely is. But I'm going to tell you, this season, we are planning on at least, now I'll say at least, I will emphasize that word because I would like to do more, but at least 2 big documentaries will be released during season 10, and I will tell you what both of them are. But before I do that, I say at least because I would love to be able to do mini documentary series through the season, something that's not going to take up too much time, but will also give a good deal of impact as far as, a character or a story or a moment. And those things could be top 5 segments, features, best of, that kind of thing. So I'd love to do those little mini things through the season. Not sure if I'm going to be able to. We're going to kind of see how the production goes as we kick off season 10, but I would really love to dive into that if possible. So if I reach out to you, or if one of the management reaches out to you regarding one of these things, please do your best to get back to us in a timely manner so that we can get these little things in and out to the public as quick as possible. And another reason, I really want to try to make sure that, just like this podcast, it's not my realm of production. But it's definitely a territory that I feel like I could be comfortable in. So the more time and the more practice, I guess you would say, that I have for these things, the better, the bigger productions are going to be. So really excited about that. Now, the first one, we're hoping to release sooner rather than later. I was hoping at the beginning of the season, but it looks like it probably could be a little bit later, maybe midway through the season. I don't want to rush these projects. I don't want to feel like a timeline has to be met. I really want to be comfortable producing these and making sure we get the best product we can out of them. The first one is going to be a takedown documentary. Guys, Takedown has been around for 9 years. It was the inaugural brand in 3Dub. It was the first brand, that is what that means. And it was the only brand that lasted consecutively all 9 seasons. There was plenty of other brands to come across 3Dub. Rebellion, Bloodlust, Frenzy, Shockwave, and Blaze, of course. Plenty of brands have graced the grounds of 3Dub Wrestling. But Takedown was the one. It was the flagship show for this company for a long time, and it has now closed its doors thanks to the brand war at the end of season 9, where Blaze would go on to win, and Takedown has now been put to rest. And I think, a lot of us think, that it would be an injustice not to do some sort of feature for that brand and kind of showcase some of the better moments and matches throughout the history of it, maybe get some insight from some of the superstars regarding the blue flagship brand in 3Dub. So be on the lookout for that. That is going to be really, really exciting. Now, the next one is definitely going to be an undertaking, and it's going to be something that's going to probably start rather soon. It's going to involve a lot of the talent that are already on the show. So if you're a talent listening right now, know that you will be, I'd say there's a 98% chance that you're going to be featured on this next documentary. The Road to the Big Event 10. A monumental accomplishment for 3Dub Wrestling. 10 seasons, and not just 10 seasons. 10 years of one of the biggest Efed shows in this corner of the woods. The Big Event. Historical show. It is our quote-unquote WrestleMania. And it used to take place at the beginning of every season. And there was a year that did not have a big event. If there was it was almost 2 years in between. Now, every season's had a big event, but it was almost 2 years in between. We'll talk about all this stuff in the documentary, but more specifically, not only the history of the big event will be featured in this documentary, but something that I'm not sure has ever been done in Efed. I think it's a fantastic undertaking that we have decided to do here. The road to the big event 10. Now, what that implies is we are going to do our best to follow the talent and the stories going through the entire season. And we are going to be showing exclusive behind-the-scenes footage in this documentary. And we're going to be showing a lot, like I said, a lot of the superstars run to the big event 10. We'll feature a couple of superstars primarily. And we're going to do something, like I said, that I don't think any other Efed has done. And it's going to be fun. And it's going to be challenging. But I encourage anybody involved to do your best with this and understand what it is. If you've seen maybe something like on the 3Dub network, on the WWE network, something like 365, I believe, or even 24, where they would follow a superstar around for 24 hours behind the scenes. In the 365, they did it for a full year. That is the concept we're looking for here. So if you don't quite know what I'm talking about or not sure, go check out the WWE network on Peacock or whatever, and check out one of those episodes of 365. I think they did a Kevin Owens, a Seth Rollins, Ricochet. There was a couple. And just watch those. And that's kind of what we're thinking here. So that, of course, will be at the end of the season when the big event 10 releases. I'm going to assume that it's going to be after that. So sometime during the off season or before Global Impact next year. So those are some of the things to be looking forward to going into season 10. That's a lot of stuff. It's exciting, man. It's exciting to me that we have all of this content to bring viewers and to create new fans of this great place. The premier Efed entertainment. 3Dub Wrestling. Now, are you guys ready to officially kick off the show here and talk about some of the things that went down at the end of the at the end of season 9 at the Big Event 9. Now, first and foremost, season 9 was a huge year for us. Some might say it was a transition year. But unlike a regular transition year, this was a very, very big year for us. Season 9 was. Blaze was introduced in season 8. But in season 9 was when we had the first full season. It changed the game for 3Dub. And there were some talents that maybe have previously been on Takedown and maybe never got the correct time or for a program to be featured on Takedown or any of the other brands previous. And a plethora of new talent that have arrived on the scene here in 3Dub. And I'm sure later in the James Black interview that he will touch base on this, but it definitely changed the game here in 3Dub, and it for the better. And it is setting up what we have for the future. A lot took place during season 9. But we don't have the time to talk about every single thing. But just know this. You can go back right now. Any show from season 9, whether it be Blaze or Takedown, and I promise you, you will be entertained. There's going to be something on either of those shows that will catch your interest and make you a fan. And that primarily is the difference between what happened in season 9 and what happened in any other season prior. Not to say that any other season prior was bad, because we had some phenomenal years. And this stretch from season 7, 8, and 9 has been our best 3-season stretch of any kind throughout our history. But there was just something about last season and the shows and the love that was put into the production of both shows that captures everything you want in an Efed. So I encourage you to go back and check out any show after this podcast. Go check out any show from season 9. I guarantee you will like it. With that said, going into I almost said Texas. I don't even know why I would say Texas. Going into the big event 9, there was a massive stipulation put on the heads of Blaze President James Black and Takedown President Matt 8th Star. And if you go back to New Year's Stampede, it was my brother, Mr. Drew, the former president and CEO of 3Dub, who would make the stipulation that the winner of a brand war between Blaze and Takedown would go on to win, I'd put that in air quotes, win the new presidential seat in 3Dub Wrestling. This announcement was made at New Year's Stampede and was the benchmark for everything to happen after that. And there was talks of ratings, a ratings war as well during this, ratings battles. If you go back and check out the numbers from both Blaze and Takedown, just from that time frame, from Stampede to the big event 9, all of the numbers are so close. It's almost crazy. The numbers were pretty close prior to that announcement being made. Takedown would get a couple wins. Blaze would get a couple wins. Ultimately, I would say Takedown had a little bit of the upper hand when it came to the ratings war with view counts. But it was slightly. But that's not what won the war. What won the war was the brand warfare match in the main event of night 2, where we thought it was going to be Hexen versus Chris Harris. We'll get to that in just a moment, guys. But let's talk about night 1 first. Featuring 281 views, night 1 of the big event 9 from Toronto, Canada, featured 2 title transfers and 2 title retentions. The first of which we seen Maria James win her first championship at the same event that her father, the legendary Juice James, is inducted into the 3Dub Hall of Fame. We'll talk about that in just a bit, but what an accomplishment for the young superstar Maria James, winning the women's television title from Danny Moore, and that, of course, opened the show and set the grounds. In the very next match, we seen another title transfer. Well, It was a title unification match, but the winner was Roscoe Wallace, who was going into the match as the television champion and facing Eddie Walker for the Extreme Hardcore Championship title unification, in which became the XTV title. Now, if you know anything about hardcore wrestling in 3-Dub, you know that the XTV title, the Extreme Television Championship, is one of the most known extreme hardcore titles in all of 3-Dub's history, and it has a long lineage of superstars who won that championship, and some of them on several occasions, because it did feature a ruling in 3-Dub that was called Chaos Theory, in which the title would be on the line 24/7 anytime during production hours of 3-Dub wrestling, and that would equate to a lot of title transfers, an historic title, but we are officially bringing that back, and the first inaugural champion of the comeback XTV title is the Monarchy's own Roscoe Wallace. We would go on to see then a global championship match where Sander Cool would defend against Caleb Stone, and he would successfully retain the championship. So we've seen Clyde Bockwinkel at ringside, someone who had supported Caleb Stone throughout Season 9 as kind of a bodyguard or tag team partner in some situations, but wouldn't be able to pull through here for Caleb Stone to retain or win the global championship. Sander Cool walks out with the title still in hand, and now we'll walk into Season 10 with the global championship. A little bit of history with that global title. It's a title that Sander created on his own. You got to remember, he was the United States champion and the European champion at the same time. That was another title that was brought into the mix via Sander Cool during the Season 9 season, but Matt 8-Star would have enough of it. But he would grant Sander the opportunity to get one of these championships and officially become the global champion, and that is what Sander did, wiping out the United States title and the European title, combining them into the global championship. Of course, he did that in a rivalry with Savio Shine. Next, we would go on to see a street fight between Jacob X and Daniel Roberts. And during this matchup, Scott Adams would cash in on the bounty that Daniel Roberts put on Jacob X's head, $100,000 richer. Scott Adams became when he slammed Jacob X through a table on the steel steps during the matchup, and that, of course, would go on to help Daniel Roberts win that match. Of course, Roberts and Jacob X were fighting for the International Championship, trying to become contender to Hollywood Watkins at the Big Event 9. We'll talk more about that for night 2. Next, we would see a Hall of Fame matchup, a first of its kind here in 3-Dub, where Jeroen Mercury from the Hall of Fame class of Season 8. I guess he wasn't too happy about the way he was received as Hall of Famer by the fans and viewers of 3-Dub. He would take out this frustration on the newly inducted Hall of Famer Russell Franchise for Season 9, in which Jeroen opted for Russell to put everything on the line. His Hall of Fame induction in a match, which he would have to beat Jeroen to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And that is what Russell Franchise did after a fantastic match. Let me take it back into history with Jeroen Mercury and Russell Franchise. Two guys that have been around a long time, well-deserved Hall of Fame spots. And that would equate to a fantastic match, as I said. And Russell Franchise earning, just like everything else in his career, that coveted Hall of Fame spot. CFT, Clarence Fletcher Townsend, would re-emerge on 3Dub TV at the Big Event 9, Night 1. Of course, the former general manager of the Takedown brand, Season 7 and Season 8 brought us a lot of fantastic matches, phenomenal moments during the reign, if you will, of General Manager CFT. CFT would go away for a bit. Upon being fired by Matt 8th Star and no longer having the General Manager position on Takedown, CFT would go away for a bit, focus on some other things, in which if you haven't followed him in his sports announcing career, be sure to go check that out. Awesome talent. And the voice to do it, to boot, if you didn't already know. But he would reemerge here, backstage, trying to get a position back on the 3Dub roster. I don't know if he was trying to get a general manager's position. Well, we know the fate of Takedown, and we know that Hunter Deal is the now general manager in 3Dub Wrestling on the Blaze brand. So I'm not quite sure what CFT was pitching for, but it looks like, if I'm reading my emails correctly during this off season, CFT has been brought back and will now be a manager in 3Dub, something that he did prior to being general manager and something that he very highly prides himself on. So we'll see how that shapes out. Maybe a resurfacing of Townsend Enterprise. I know for sure that one person interested in the calling, Caleb Stone, showing up in that segment. A few choice words for Mr. Drew as they, CFT and Stone that is, walk off and leave the arena night one, presumably to go have a couple of drinks and maybe talk about some future partnerships. We know they've been, well, they had their thing, when CFT was general manager, but now can maybe get a little bit more hands-on. And no, that is not meant in any other manner than in wrestling, okay? Get your dirty minds out of the gutters. Moving on to what would be match of the night from night one. A triple threat match that would go on to become a number one contender match for the World Championship against Dargus on night 2. Now, we'll talk more in-depthly into that and why that situation came up. But we know now that it will be a number one contender match going into the event. Chris Conley, Twan Montana, and Will King, all of which had ties with one another previously, and then more specifically, Twan Montana's relationship with Will King in the Monarchy and how that disintegrated upon Twan Montana leaving Blaze, going to Takedown. Chris Conley would also leave Blaze and go to Takedown, and eventually, because of common enemies in CTC, Twan and Chris would form, I was looking for a word there, against their will wouldn't be the correct verbiage. But neither of them wanted to be in this tag team situation. But nonetheless, they found themselves in a title match and would go on to win the championships together. And we all know how that rocky road went, losing the titles eventually. And then getting into this situation where Will King would stick his nose in their business. Will King would order Tia Tonga to powerbomb the Queen, Tuan's Queen, off of the stage onto the concrete. And all kinds of situations leading up to this triple threat match. Like I said, didn't just happen in a few months. Lots of months. Years. Will King is the student of Chris Conley. Just a circle, a whirlwind of things that were brewing with this rivalry. It would go on to be match of the night, like I said, in which Tuan Montana would go on to get the victory and look to face Dargis on night 2. That would be the co-main event of night 1 as we go on to the main event, which would be the 3-dub heavyweight championship match. Another triple threat where Noah Youngblood would defend the 3-dub title against Bully Rez and Joe Rivers. Now, if you don't know, if you're living under a rock or you are a new viewer, these 3 members, along with Justin Perrault, who disappeared earlier in the season but would play a big role in all of this, all 3 of them would come from the faction Cutthroat Crew, CTC. This faction ran amok on Takedown. It's dealing with a lot of people, causing a lot of havoc. Like I said earlier, they were the reason why someone like Chris Conley and Tuan Montana set their differences aside to try to come together and take down CTC. In which they did. They took the tag team titles. And I feel like that was the start of the downfall for CTC. Remy Resner would go on to win his second 3-dub championship. And upon doing so, would become more of a tyrant towards the posse. A little bit more demanding. Almost as if he no longer needed them now that he was 3-dub champion. Well, all that seemed to change at Bloodlust. Remy Resner would go on to defend successfully against Chris Harris in a blood brutal bath. And at the end of that matchup, we would see the guaranteed money briefcase holder, Noah Youngblood, finally come down and put everything aside and try to put Remy in his place. And that is exactly what he did when he cashed in the briefcase and for the first time in his career became 3-dub heavyweight champion. The tides turned. And now it was no longer about keeping CTC together for Remy. It was about getting back that championship at any means necessary. And along the way, he tried to recruit Joe Rivers to be on his side. A big moment, we seen Joe Rivers not only hit Noah Youngblood with a steel chair, but turn and also hit Remy Resner with the same steel chair. That would go on to set up the triple threat. And at the big event 9, our second title to be retained would be the 3-dub title and Noah Youngblood. At the conclusion of that match, we would see cameras go backstage, which would capture the moment of the night from night 1, which would be Mr. Drew backstage with Matt 8th Star and with James Black, which he would make a groundbreaking announcement that what we thought the main event of night 2 was going to be, Hexen versus Chris Harris, both representing their brands, had now been changed to a tag team matchup. James Black and Hunter Deal would find another partner to team with Hexen. And who could that be? And Matt 8th Star also forced to find a superstar to team with Chris Harris. That, like I said, would become moment of the night for night 1. It would leave an amazing cliffhanger going into night 2 where we would find all of this come together. Night 2, Toronto, Canada, 216 views, a little bit less than night 1. That's okay. A grand total of 497 views for the big event 9 in Toronto, Canada. Night 2 opens up with what would become match of the night. Not any other match, although very fantastic matches to come. This would be the fan-voted match of the night, and it is the retirement match, which would go on to become the retirement match of Hollywood Watkins. International title match in a ladder match against Dylan Mason, his brethren, megastar. Hollywood Watkins, for many months, was repeating the same line that the next person that beats me for this here international title will be my final opponent. Saying that the next time he lost the international title, he would retire. We talked about Jacob X and Daniel Roberts scratching and clawing to get this opportunity. Neither of them would be able to do so. Jacob X drummed up one hell of a rivalry, though, with Hollywood Watkins and got that close as he was in a match. Wasn't able to beat Watkins. Daniel Roberts returns to 3-Dub with 4 years of pent-up regret and aggression towards Hollywood Watkins. Still unable to get that match. It would go on to become Dylan Mason, his fellow megastar brother. And I think both of these guys wouldn't have rather it been anybody else. Storybook career for Hollywood Watkins. Fantastic match of the night for night 2. International title goes to Dylan Mason. The next matchup we would see, tag team triple threat match. Unified Tag Team Championships. The Blaze Tag Team Champions, Team Tap Out. The Takedown Tag Team Champions, the Midwest Kings. And the Shades of Despair as the number 1 contenders. Fantastic elimination style match, guys. Team Tap Out wiped house and would walk out the new 3-Dub Tag Team Champions. Next on the docket would be the Women's Undisputed title match. It was a 20-minute Iron Woman match. And it would actually come down to a draw. The match would come down to a draw. Fantastic. Both of these ladies put everything on the line after what seemed like a whole year that they've been involved in storyline together. 20 minutes, still couldn't get it done. I think the score was 5-5, 6-6, something like that. Well, we'd get some rebuttal from that. Don't worry. We'll talk about that at Global Impact. Next, we would see another final matchup. This one being for the Scottish Warrior, which he, many months ago before this event, challenged longtime rival Jack Harvey to one final match. A casket match, which we seen the likes of Jack Harvey, the Madness, get the win. And for that, we say salute to the Scottish Warrior, Ian. Phenomenal career. Next, we would see that Hall of Fame inductions for the 3 superstars inducted in the Hall of Fame Season 9 class. Of course, as you see on the screen here, the 3 superstars going in this past season were Juice James, Russell Franchise, and Bella Roberts. Awesome class. Next, we'd move on to another unification match. Big time matchup here, guys. A lot going on here to get these 4 into the ring together. We had the national champion, Jaden Walker, and the Impact champion, Warren Peace, of course, both on the Blaze brand. Would also get the likes of MDX and Scott Adams, $100,000 richer, mind you, in this fatal 4-way ladder match. It would, of course, be Jaden Walker that would go out on top, unifying the Impact and National Championships. And that's not before we seen what looked like the twin of Warren Peace. Still not sure exactly who this guy was, but almost identical to Warren is what he looked like. Come from nowhere and prevent Warren Peace from winning the match. The mirrored image man took Warren Peace out of the picture. And then we seen Scott Adams with a massive power bomb through a table on MDX, effectively eliminating him from the match. And Scott Adams just not quick enough to run down that long entrance ramp at the big event and prevent Jaden Walker from grabbing the championships. But congratulations to Jaden Walker. We'll be talking about him a little bit more in just a moment. Next, we seen that World's Heavyweight Championship match. Now, guys, there's a reason why the announced challenger to face Diargus at the Big Event 9 was no longer involved in that match. His name was Josh Armstrong. Unfortunately, Josh stumbled into a little bit of trouble, but it wasn't necessarily his fault. But at the same time, well, you got to keep your social media accounts on lock. You got to be responsible enough knowing that you are a superstar in this kind of world, that all kinds of fans and or possibly even family members could maybe take advantage of that, or maybe a sour moment and seek some revenge on you. Apparently that is what had happened with Josh Armstrong, and we're not going to go into detail on what happened, but some inexplicit things were done and said, and that would result in a 3-month suspension, no pay indefinitely, for Josh Armstrong, and stripped of his World's Heavyweight Championship opportunity against Diargus. If I'm sitting back, before I go on any further, if I'm sitting back and I'm Jaden Walker, that was my spot. That was my spot. And somebody that Jaden had feuded with for the majority of the season, some of the biggest matches on all of Blaze, and it would be Josh to undermine everything. The man on the losing hand of all of this rivalry, by the way, with Jaden. But Josh would get the title match at the big event. That could not have sat well with Jaden Walker, despite combining the Impact and National titles and getting a big win in that matter. But it could not have sat well with Jaden Walker. And then, days before the event, to get suspended. That is why I think that Jaden Walker is coming into this season with enormous chip on his shoulder. We'll talk about that. But nonetheless, triple threat match on night 1. Chris Conley, Twan Montana, Will King. became the number one contender match. And the winner of that match, as I said, was Twan Montana. So here on night 2 in the co-main event, we got Twan Montana and Dargus World's Heavyweight Championship match. What a match. Some might argue that if Twan Montana was 100%, that could have been his match to win. He could be the World's Heavyweight Champion going into Season 9, but guess what? He's not. And he's not because you have the prestigious Dargus. The man that can go against any other man, any size, any shape. Dargus has proven time and time again through his career that he can overcome any odds placed in front of him times 2. And even with not being 100%, even being taped up and going through that brutal match on night 1 just 24 hours prior, a lot of people thought that Twan Montana was going to win that match. That the Icon Emperor, the 2-time king of the ring in 3-dub wrestling, was going to mop the floor with the longtime veteran Dargus. But that didn't happen. It was a good match, and Twan had his moments. And I think, personally, that he definitely showed signs that he can be in that spot again. And he will be in that spot again. But in Toronto that night, Dargus proved to be the better man. And he's going into Season 10 still as the World's Heavyweight Champion. Now, before I go any further, and I will cover this in a little bit, but it has been announced that on the season premiere of Blaze, we are going to get yet another unification match in the new James Black era, and that is going to be the biggest unification match that you can get, where the 3-dub heavyweight champion Noah Youngblood and the world's heavyweight champion Dargus will enter a triple threat match where their odds are 33% to win against a man who is undefeated in 3-dub wrestling and beyond. Never lost a match, including the Stampede Rumble, in which was the avenue for Hexen to enter into this match. If you have any predictions, we will get to that in a moment. But next, all throughout the night of night 2 in Toronto, Big Event 9, we seen Matt trying to recruit people, and we seen James Black and Hunter Deal talking. And they were talking about how James Black was going to run back to his hotel room where he left his gear bag that he brought just in case for this moment, in which the general manager, Hunter Deal, talked some sense into the, now newly crowned president, saying that if he won the brand warfare match, that we were going to need James Black at 100%, 1,000%. And at that point, that is when Hunter Deal opted to step back into the ring and join Hexen to represent Blaze. On the other hand, we see John Awesome at the airport, just getting ready to leave Toronto. He showed up. He was there. But we're coming close to the end and no call. Well, maybe he was heading out of there. Maybe for good. But then at the very last moment, a message from Matt 8 Star came across the cellular device of John Awesome, asking him to be Chris Harris's partner. And, we didn't get an answer right then. We didn't have an answer all throughout the night, but we lead right now to the main event the Brand of Warfare match, night 2, Hunter Deal and Hexen against Chris Harris and John Awesome. We know that John and Chris haven't been necessarily seeing eye to eye, but it hasn't been tension, so to say, between them two. It's mostly been between John and management and some booking decisions, and John kind of getting frustrated about that. So we weren't sure if we were going to see John. We weren't sure if we were going to see anybody. But John did. John set everything aside, and for the takedown brand, went out and fought. And then the unthinkable happened. In what would become moment of the night, Chris Harris would turn on Takedown. It's hard for me to say, guys, because I, if anyone, am the man that backed Chris Harris 100,000%. Every single corner of his career. When he almost had the life beaten out of him by Dylan Mason, it was me. It was me that was there backing him, encouraging him to keep going. It was me and the fans. When he went through the Crimson Red Hell in a Cell against Remy Resner, it was me and the fans encouraging him to keep going. And when it came to who was going to represent Takedown, it was me and the fans that knew who our guy was, that thought that if there was one man outside of Matt Eighth Star that would be able to represent this brand in the ring to the fullest, without any question, it would be Mr. Big Event himself, Chris Harris. But boy, oh boy, was I and the fans wrong. And in front of 70,000 plus people, Chris Harris turned his back on 3-Dub, on Takedown, on me, on the fans, on his brothers in the locker room, and also on John Awesome. After everything they went through, and John Awesome put everything to the side to come out and try to fight and bring back home the flagship brand, Chris Harris ruined it. And that would conclude the Big Event 9. Have we seen a shake of the hand with James Black and Chris Harris? And I know that is the question that everybody listening right now wants to know the answer to. And we will get to that here very soon, guys, when we have the exclusive interview with James Black. But that was not the last bit of action. For Season 9, of course, we have the awards ceremony. And right now, coming across your screen, you will see all of the award winners. And I might say congratulations to each and every one of those superstars. Well-deserved awards won throughout this season. Especially to Hexen, getting Rookie of the Year, one of my favorite awards. Always good to win Rookie of the Year. Big things come from Rookie of the Year. Just ask any previous Rookie of the Year. So big things for Hexen, undefeated. Man. Global Impact. That is the awards ceremony and the highest honor MVP matchup. That is a matchup where 6 superstars are selected by the fans and by management. These superstars represent what that season was. First and foremost, we've seen a casket match. And this casket match featured the undisputed women's title, and it would be a rematch from Gypsy Freak and Nightshade. Of course, the Title match at the Big Event 9, as we mentioned, came to a draw. And this would be the answer from Hunter Deal to see what we're doing with the title next. It would be at the Global Impact pay-per-view, premium live event, whatever you call it. Casket match. And just as Gypsy Freak is about to open the casket and carry Nightshade over and maybe throw her in and win the match, we have a surprise. Bursting out of the casket is the casket queen herself, Jocelyn Havoc. That's right, guys. A big return to 3-Dub in the women's division. Jocelyn Havoc would go on to lay havoc to not only Gypsy Freak, but also turning her attention to the champion, Nightshade, and then return to throw Gypsy Freak into the casket, closing the lid, effectively getting the win to Nightshade. Of course, no disqualifications in that kind of matchup. You got to get your opponent in there and close the lid no matter how it happens. And it was Gypsy Freak that did that. Therefore, still champion Nightshade. But I guarantee you, we have not seen the end between Gypsy and Nightshade. And boy, oh boy, have we just seen the start of Jocelyn Havoc. But now, that highest honor MVP match. This match would include Dylan Mason, Noah Youngblood, Dargus, Will King, Twan Montana, and the winner goes to Jaden Walker. 2 back-to-back ladder match victories for Jaden, winning the national title and then winning the coveted Season 9 highest honor MVP Elimination Chamber match. Fantastic match. Be sure to go back and check it out. Well-deserved win for Jaden Walker. And we will see what this honor can give him going into Season 10. All right, guys, here we go. The exclusive interview you have all been waiting for, we finally have right now with us the new president of 3-Dub Wrestling. Man, oh man, James Black. How are you doing, man? Good to have you here.
Dewey, I am absolutely splendiferous. I'm almost at a loss for words, man. I'm so incredibly excited. I don't know if I've ever been this anxious in my life. I'm excited. I got goosebumps.
Oh, man, that is awesome. I'm sure a lot of people have goosebumps, and hopefully these goosebumps can perspire to something much, much greater here in the company, because this is a monumental change, turn of the guard for 3-Dub Wrestling.
You're absolutely correct. This is a monumental occasion in the Efed world, and especially here in our corner of the universe. But yeah, man, I am excited. How are you, man? I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm hanging in there, just doing my thing like I always do. But I'm just super excited right now. That's it.
All right, well, let's get into it, man. I know you have a lot of questions for me.
Yes, I do. So
let's... hold on.
Okay.
Before you ask me any questions, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
So here I am.
Yep.
The first guest.
Yep.
On this show.
Yep. Season 10.
And my question for you is, who's going to be the second guest? And it's going to have to be somebody pretty damn good to follow James Black. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, who's going to be the second guest?
I mean, we're going to have plenty of great guests here on the podcast. Not going to release who we plan on bringing in next, but just know we're going to have plenty of guests. Great guests here on the podcast.
Holding out on us, huh?
I mean,
okay, I see.
Hey, now you know how it goes. So, well, we'll get to that. Plenty of time to get to that. Well, let's get started with these questions, man. I've got a lot of questions here. Some of these were inspired by some fanfare questions as well on social media. But first, I want to know what's going through your mind when you wake up every single morning and you step out and have your coffee or your breakfast or whatever, and you're looking out your gigantic window of your estate, overlooking downtown Las Vegas and the Strip, what's going through James Black's mind? Because this is a company that has been ran by one man, my brother, for the longest time, Mr. Drew. And he has done some phenomenal things for this place. Those are some pretty big shoes to fill. So I have to know how you feel knowing you're taking over for such a legendary person in this company and essentially going to rewrite the course of history for this company.
I am going to be honest and I'm going to be transparent. And by the end of this interview, some people may like me, some people may hate me, some people might not give a damn either way. But either way, I'm going to be honest and transparent here. My very first thought of every day: the only thing better than being world heavyweight champion is owning the whole damn company. And immediately after that, how can we move the needle in the Efed world? And immediately after that, how can we move the needle in the Efed world? How do I feel? That's easy. I feel incredibly blessed. I feel humbled to even be in a position where I'm considered to be the one in the position to drive this ship. I know it was it was up for grabs between Matt and myself, but even to be considered to drive this ship, it's an honor. Let's make no mistake about it. I am inheriting the keys to a diamond. At some point in time, the greatest names in the entire Efed world have passed through these doors. I'll even go as far as to say that some of the biggest names in the Efed world wouldn't be as big without these doors. These doors have even given birth to some of the biggest names in Efed. I am inheriting the keys to a diamond, and I do not take that lightly. It's no secret that Mr. Drew and I haven't always seen eye to eye. But from a business standpoint, the guy is a mastermind. In fact, if there was a Mount Rushmore for masterminds, he should be on it 4 times by himself. Mr. Drew has done an incredible job, man. He's driven this ship for the last 9 years. And actually, more than that, if you dig at the roots of 3-Dub Wrestling.
That's right, in IWL.
But, man, he's done an incredible job. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that he has been the hardest working man in Efed.
I can confirm that, being my brother, for sure.
So to answer your question, how does it feel?
Yeah.
It's humbling.
Well, I'm sure it is. That's, like I said, big footsteps, big shoes to fill. And there's been so many things that have been done in 3-Dub that you don't see in very many other places, if any. So, of course, hats off to Mr. Drew, my brother. And, his career isn't necessarily over in 3-Dub. He's doing a lot of other things for the company, but the career of president is now all yours. So I know you're excited, as is the fans and viewers and all the superstars in the locker room. But now that leads me to ask you, tell me about that transition from going from in-ring competitor to now management and ultimately now president. You debuted in season 2, at the end of season 2. You would immediately go into a big fatal 4-way match and win your first world championship, you would go on to win 4 world championships on takedown in 3-dub. You would win a hardcore title. You would win the Stampede Rumble twice. Highest honor MVP. It's safe to say that you're a first ballot Hall of Famer. And you create this brand and blaze, and you go head to head with Takedown and ultimately beat Takedown. And now you're the president. Tell us what it's like going from a multi-time heavyweight champion, top of the card, main event, and now you're running the whole show. Tell us about that transition.
You know, when I first stepped into the presidential role for HWA, at that point, it was very, very difficult for me to stay out of the ring. Very difficult. Probably one of the, I would say, top 3 most difficult things that I've had to do in my life. And the reason why, put yourself in my shoes here now. I had just lost a retirement match, but I have to sit at home week after week. And as I'm watching Takedown, I see the elite talent. I'm talking about the best in the world. Guys like Jack Harvey. Man, I sat at home watching this guy, and there was this one promo that he did. He stood in front of the camera. His eyes were red. He was foaming at the mouth, and he had a vein in his neck that looked like it was just about to burst. And he stood in front of the camera and raised the championship and said, "And still world heavyweight champion." Man, I got goosebumps just thinking about that. And I had to sit at home on the sofa and couldn't compete against that guy. I had to sit at home and watch John Awesome not be able to compete against John Awesome, not be able to compete against Remy Reznor, Noah Youngblood. Dire Ghost was still here at the time. Russell the Franchise, Juice James, Chris Harris. And I don't even know if I should mention his name because I don't know how the 3-dub universe feels about him. But the reality is he's an incredible talent. And I had to sit at home. And even with that, I couldn't get my revenge. I couldn't get any payback. Imagine having to sit at home and not be able to interact with the best in the world. I'm talking Hollywood Watkins and Dylan Mason, man. Man, I was heartbroken. But as I sat there on the sofa week after week watching Takedown, that competitor's fire that was burning inside of me, it changed. It evolved into something, and I don't even know how to describe exactly what happened. But I do know that I fell in love with wrestling all over again, and I fell in love with it as a fan. And in that moment, I had a vision. And that vision was to create Wednesday Night Blaze. And in doing that, I've had the pleasure of working with some of the best young talent in the Efed world. Will King, Roscoe, MDX, Lewis C., King Nightshade, Gypsy Freak, Scott Adams, Hexen, Jaden Walker, Jacob Fowler, TJ Renegade, Josh Armstrong. Man, the list goes on with the incredible young talent that I've been able to work with. Hired Gun, Sam Hain, Chris Connolly, Twan Montana. Yes, those are Blaze guys. So that made the transition easy. Because what I began to do is live vicariously through all of those guys. So when they walk to the ring, I'm walking to the ring too. When they're standing in the middle of the ring, they're putting 5-star matches, selling out arenas all over the world. That's me selling out arenas all over the world. That's me winning promo of the week. That's me becoming world heavyweight champion. That's me living through those guys. So at this point, I don't have any desire to compete in ring. All of the competing I will do will be from behind the desk.
You know, that's interesting you say competing, because there's no other brands in 3Dub at the moment, and you're no longer competing with Mad 8 Star and Takedown. What you're referencing to is competing against all the other Efed companies out there on YouTube and even Twitch or any of the likes. I love that. I love that, by the way. But you know, being world champion, highest honor MVP, you know, all these other things is just part of it, right? Because there's a whole nother part of your career that has to be brought up here. And we're talking about the megastars. A lot of people have questions about you being a megastar because they're not dead. The megastars aren't dead. It's still very much alive, and we'll talk about that. Even without the majority of the members here, we know we just seen Hollywood Watkins retire at the hands of Dylan Mason, who would now, with you being president, would be the last remaining megastar. But tell us about that faction. Tell us about creating the megastars, and then now there only being one left, and tell us your thoughts on Dylan Mason.
Yeah, man. The megastars were special. They're special to me, special to the fans, and they were special to the 3Dub brand. Man, I saw something in Hollywood Watkins and Dylan Mason. And I had a vision of us doing exactly what we did, and that's putting the wrestling world in a chokehold. And man, to have Corey Heck join us, DJB join us, and a couple of other questionable ones, but man, those guys right there, Dylan Mason and Hollywood Watkins, the core of the megastars, and myself, we have a bond that will never be broken. Hollywood Watkins, as you mentioned, and I mentioned earlier also, you know, retiring. I hate that he's not here to compete in the James Black era. You know, luckily we still have Dylan Mason. And to answer the question how I feel about him, Dylan Mason is an incredible talent. He's an elite talent. And I don't think that's up for debate. But the reality is this. Some people are going to be skeptical because of how relentless I was when I competed. Some people are going to be skeptical because of I was the founding member of the Megastars. Some people are going to assume that I'm going to give Dylan Mason favors and things of that nature. But the reality is this. I am the president of 3Dub Wrestling. And I am not here on behalf of the Megastars. This is business.
I think you have said those exact lines at one point before, and that just goes to show where you put the line between work and pleasure and you know, business and play. So I think that's very reassuring to the roster. Now the next question kind of runs along the lines of this same thing because, you know, something that's been kind of burning inside of me as well. I brought it up earlier in the show when we were talking about Chris Harris. We all seen what happened at the big event 9. I talked about it and I shared my feelings on it. But we seen you two shaking hands at the end of the show. You need to tell us about that. Is there something going on with you and Chris Harris? Because we know the history between you two. Hell, just at the big event 8, you two went into an unsanctioned match with one another. But have you guys fought it all out? Have you worked it all out? Is there something going on with Chris Harris and James Black? Or is that something we're going to have to wait and find out?
Yeah, that was a moment. The reality is, I probably would have shook anyone's hand that walked up in that moment, you know. I was in shock. We won the war. But what I'm about to say next is going to shock you. You know what? On second thought, I'm going to wait until the season premiere of Blaze, when I'm standing in the middle of the ring in front of 71,000 fans live from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'll address this.
Oh, now who's the one leaving us on edge? You know, I was really hoping we'd get the answer to that, but hey, you're the boss, so we'll wait and find out on Blaze, episode 1, next Sunday. Be sure to be there. Guys, we have reached the final question. The final question, James. We talked about the legacy of Mr. Drew, and we've talked about what to expect with you and some of the things you've done in your career. Tell us now what to expect for season 10. What to expect in the James Black era. Tell us what the difference is going to be between Mr. Drew's 3-dub and James Black's 3-dub.
I can hear the journalist coming out of you now, Dewey. Something about that word difference. It's almost as if it's intended to create a wedge between myself and Mr. Drew. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but sometimes the power of words creates those types of images in the eyes of people that, or in the ears, I should say, of people that hear them. So with that being said, I want to go on record here. There is no division between myself and Mr. Drew. We are very much on the same page and very much have the same vision for the 3-dub brand. And the reality is the formula works. My objective is not to knock down the foundation that Mr. Drew built. But I very much intend to build on that foundation and enhance his formula.
That is fantastic. That can only mean good things. Am I right? But as we wrap up here, I'll give you an opportunity. If you have any words for the fans and the viewers who are anticipating this season 10 in the new James Black era, any words for the fans out there?
On behalf of all of the staff at 3-Dub Wrestling, myself and my right-hand man, General Manager Hunter Dill included, thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of our hearts, for your support throughout the years. And this season, we are going to accomplish some amazing things. We have had some ups and downs over the years, but one thing never changed, and that is your support for us. And because of that, I have a treat for you. To show you that your voice is heard, we're working on a premium live event where you, the people, will have the power to choose every aspect of this premium live event. You will be able to choose the city, the championships that are defended, the challengers, and even the match types. You will have the power.
That's a big announcement right there. Of course, we're not getting a date. No. Okay, well, that's something to look forward to for the fans. Do you got any words of encouragement or things to say for the roster?
We are a story-based Fed, but your activity matters. As we approach the season premiere, I want everyone on the roster to know that my door is always open. Feel free to message me if you need anything. I will always be there to lend a helping hand or an ear, whatever you guys may need. My door is always open.
Well, there you have it, guys. James Black ready to step foot into season 10 as the president of 3-Dub Wrestling. Guys, thank you for joining us. And James, thank you for joining me on this first episode of the Pillar to Post podcast in Season 10. I am Dewey Danielson, and I am signing out. We'll see you next Sunday night on Blaze. Hey, have a great night.
Never seen us coming when we